FanDuel Punch Out. I'm Jason Gilbo, JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay. Taking a look at FanDuel tonight. A lot of hitters in play, a lot of kind of wide range of options that you can go through just because the pitching is kind of average on tonight's
trash. Slate. Pitcher's trash. Yeah.
It's not trash. We've had far worse.
Yes, we have on shorter slates. 15-gamer, this is impressive to have this much stuff going out on Thursday mornings, you know?
That's true. I mean, I guess, yeah, for a full-size slate, it should be a lot more pitching options, but there's not.
But there's not, yeah. We'll struggle through it.
Pirates and Mariners, Francisco Liriano versus Felix Hernandez. Both projected teams under 4. On a 15-game slate, I'm not really intrigued with taking any bets here. Especially Nelson Cruz. I mean, we saw him the other day. He was really cheap. But against Liriano here, 4-1 in that ballpark, it wouldn't be surprised, you know, to see him go yard. But it's tough to kind of play any right-hander in PNC against Liriano.
Yeah, and obviously the lefties are out of play, so stacking's out. So the shine kind of wore off Cruz. But 41, okay. Deep tournament shot. I'm all right with that.
Yeah, I mean, against the lefty, he's always in play.
Right.
But obviously, the ownership should be much lower than just giving it a 15-game slate with plenty of other options.
Definitely.
As far as the Pirates go, I mean, this is kind of a battle of two guys that, or a pitcher and a team that kind of have used to be. Felix Hernandez, not quite what he's usually been, but also the Pirates have been slipping, and they're not quite the usual offense they really have been the prior months. So for me, they just kind of wash each other out. I mean, I don't really see myself using a ton of guys in this matchup, even though Hernandez has struggled.
Yeah, I don't mind a Gregory Polanco. I think he's in a pretty good spot at 3,500. But other than that, I'm pretty much glossing over this matchup.
Yeah. Orioles and Rockies, and I mean, I'm a big fan of the Orioles bats here, who have kind of been, you know, slumping and coming out of the break. But I think you got to like a lot of the right-handers here against Bettis. And you look at Bettis, I mean, over 5 ERA on the road, you know, struggles outside of course still. You go back to last year, 352 won't allow to righties. You got to like Machado, you got to like Scope, you got to like Jones. The Scope price tag bothers me, but Trumbo 3-2, that's money.
I think we can all zero in on that one pretty quickly. You see that 32 for Trumbo, and you're almost instantly putting him in anyway. Never mind Chad Bettis out there. So, yeah, definitely like that for him, batting cleanup. I like Chris Davis for the power aspect, even though it's a little overpriced. Yeah, I think they're a stacking option. And, I mean, with a bunch of other sort of 5.5 to 6 projected run totals, you might get away with some pretty decent ownership in tournaments.
Yeah, I think some of those guys are, and I think Matt Wieters and Chris Davis and Scope are certainly probably going to carry the lowest ownership. I do see Machado and Trumbo and Jones Stoke being relatively high owned, but I'm definitely not afraid to kind of target after them.
Right, I agree.
As far as the Rockies go, I mean, I'm not really looking to use them tonight. Their prices, I think they're all just a little bit outrageous for me, even in that ballpark, but they just look completely lost. And that series against the Braves wasn't even really that great of an offensive showdown. So I just think something's up here. I think overall, you get past Story, it's not a great, you know, back half of the lineup. So I think Tillman's going to have a fine start. I'm not on Colorado here.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And especially on FanDuel, I just don't think you need to reach for guys over 4K on a night like this. So don't force it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And we can move on from that one. Padres and Blue Jays here, Marcus Stroman versus Andrew Cashner. Blue Jays are ridiculously expensive. I mean, Bautista comes back one day, and all of a sudden he's 5K. Dalton 4.8, Incarnation 4.9. Yeah, I mean, they can definitely fit more so here tonight than they can last night with all those pitching and all the kind of the minor pitching that comes with tonight. But, yeah, I don't know. I think Michael Saunders might be the only one that I actually really like for the price tag.
Yeah, I agree. And even he's teetering on expensive, but I still think he's a solid value. But those top three, 14.7 for, I mean, we saw it the other day where you're just not getting that much. You need a ton of production for them to pay that off, especially in a stack. So maybe as a one-off, obviously you like the matchup against Cashner, but I'm not necessarily in on full-out stack. I mean, I can. It's totally a viable way to go. It's just tough to make the roster construction work.
Yeah, I think so. And when you got Machado for pretty much 1,000 cheaper than Donaldson in a great matchup as well in a friendly ballpark, I'd rather just kind of spin down to Machado there.
Yeah.
As far as the Padres go, I'm not really looking to use him here. If you wanted to make anything of it, I still think Ryan Schimpf is a fine GPP option, just given his upside as far as the home runs go. And Stroman hasn't really been squeaky clean against lefties either.
Yeah, I think he's a fair jump. 2,200 still. I mean, after this borderline dominant production over the last half a month or so. So I'm definitely in on that. I think that's a nice call. Matt Kemp 2,900. I don't love the matchup, but again, he's been hitting well this year. So I think those are two guys I'm looking at in that lineup. Other than that, not really a look. But
Yeah.
you mentioned Machado there. I think you could look at Machado and maybe teaming him up with one of those Blue Jays bats, and I feel like that could be a pretty high upside duo.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you can mix and match. I certainly think the Jays, as a one-off standpoint, are definitely in play more so than a complete stack.
Agreed.
So I think Padres go is just pretty much like last night. We're looking at those two names, just price considered and power considered in GPPs.
Mm-hmm.
Indians and Nationals, Dane Salazar versus Gio Gonzalez, and I don't mind Rajay Davis at 3K. You look at Gio, I mean, up and down against right-handers at times. Outside of that, I mean, maybe a Lindor at 3-4, but it's more GPP moves as far as taking hitters on Cleveland here.
Yeah, definitely a GPP move. I mean, it seems like both sites are finally coming around on this Indians offense, and 1 through 8, most nights they're really in play. So I mean, I think you can potentially look at some of the end of the lineup guys there. It looks like there's going to be a few min priced guys, but other than that, tournaments only. And against Salazar, I don't mind a Harper at 3.7. I think that's an intriguing sort of leverage play on Salazar, but in terms of like cash or anything like that, there's nothing in that Nationals lineup that I'm really intrigued by.
No, I think cash games alone there is just kind of a no-go as far as pitching and hitting.
Yeah, exactly.
Cubs and White Sox, James Shields versus Kyle Hendricks, and this one's interesting because you look at Shields, I mean, he's pitched well, but I mean, over his last 5 starts, I mean, really low swinging strike rate, not missing a lot of bats, kind of pitching to contact. Very low BABIP. I think the FIP's over 5. So I do think some regression's coming. Cubs bats are expensive here, but I love Dexter Fowler at 3.3. And I think you got to, like, even a Rizzo as a GPP, Zobrist as a GPP option, and feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, and I think you could also go with the end of that lineup with Bays, sort of a 9-1 combo with Bays and Fowler. I think that's intriguing. But yeah, I definitely think Shields is in for regression here in a really tough matchup. So I like that. I mean, I'm even okay with paying up for Rizzo tonight. So it is expensive. I mean, Bryant's expensive. Zobrist is relatively expensive. So I think you keep that in mind. But at the same time, I'm not afraid of paying up for the Cubs tonight.
No, I'm not either, and I think you're looking at the pitching that surrounds us on this evening. You can pay for a 7 or 8K bat or 8K pitcher and kind of work in a lot of bats. So the Cubs, I mean, we're talking in comparison to last night where everyone was priced up, it's much more easier to accommodate here this evening.
Definitely.
So I think you're good with those lefties for the Cubs. I mean, as far as the White Sox go, I don't mind them in a GPP fashion. I don't mind a Todd Frazier at 2.5. Just given his power. And Kyle Hendricks has been solid this year, but has been more average on the road than if anything. So I kind of like the White Sox as contrarian one-off options.
Okay, one-offs. Yeah, okay. I was going to ask if you like them as one-offs or tournament sort of mini stacks. I'm okay with Tim Anderson too. I mean, it's not a great matchup, but 2,200 for a pretty decent hitter. So I don't mind that. And like you mentioned, Todd Frazier. Potentially jumping him in the lineup, just coming out of nowhere, saying hi to his pals, and then he's like, we're eating. All right, let me sneak in front of you real quick. He's just like cutting in the lunch line now, He's really wearing out his welcome quick here.
Yeah, I mean, Morneau just comes in and thinks he can run the show, and
Yeah.
I don't know who does he think he is, Adam LaRoche. He can just come in and do whatever he wants.
There's an order to these things, you know. You can't just bust in the door and be the king. So
Well, as we've seen, the White Sox don't have much order, given they can just
that you
have
know
pitchers
what?
coming around slash jerseys, do whatever they want.
I take back everything I just said. They need someone to take the order there. So yeah, never mind.
Cardinals Mets next here. Bartolo Colon versus Jaime Garcia. As far as the Mets side it goes, I might look at a Cespedes at 3.6 in GPPs. He's hit left. He's a pretty incredible rate this year alone. And I don't mind the upside there. I think that's about it, though, from that Mets team.
Yeah, I agree. That's really all I'm looking at for that Mets team right now in general. Neil Walker dealing with some injuries. Asdrubal Cabrera not necessarily doing much. So I think you just kind of fade this other than Cespedes. And on the Cardinals side, I'm not sure I'm that in on anyone here tonight either. I like Aledmus Diaz at 2,700, and Grichuk as well. But other than that, I don't necessarily see the high upside there.
And the one thing about this game that's going to be troublesome is the fact that the game one is right before it.
Right.
And you're not really going to probably see who's in the lineup for game two. So you are rolling the dice, and you are probably going to get a lot of these guys at lower ownership, just given the fact that you're kind of going in blind. So I don't mind taking shots at the Cardinals at those prices, but obviously there is a lot of risk in it as far as not being in the lineup, and also it not being a perfect ballpark, a perfect pitching matchup. So there's kind of a lot going up against the Cardinals, but I definitely don't mind them in GPPs.
Yeah, exactly. GPP only, and maybe a one-off only as well.
Yeah. Phillies and Marlins. Tom Koehler versus Gerard Eichhoff. I'm not in love with the Odubel Herrera price. He's kind of the only consistent one that I'll look at for the Phillies these days. Michael Franco at 3-1 is kind of interesting, but overall, I don't see myself like picking on Koehler.
Herrera's such a bummer because I didn't get to play him much early in the year, and then he's just overpriced now all the time. So it's like, come on, man.
You missed the Odubel train, and now you're waiting for the seconds to come around.
I'm waiting for it to come around. So he needs to go on like a Giancarlo Stanton like streak of just striking out 12 times in a row or something crazy. But yeah, overall, I'm not too in on the Phillies offense tonight. I just don't think that's something that's not an avenue you need to go down. In terms of the Marlins, though, I mean, I'm always going to be okay with Stanton and Ozuna at 3K against non-aces, you know?
Yeah, I think so. And for me, they're just tournament guys, just because you are hoping for that upside against Eichhoff at those price tags. It's not a perfect matchup. I mean, Eichhoff's been relatively tough.
No, he's been good. He's been good against righties, but at the same time, 3K, I'd be willing to throw a Stanton share in there.
Yeah, and the prices are kind of predictive of how Eichhoff struggles, which is against lefties, which is why Yelich is 3,900. So I don't mind him as a high-end option. I think you're going to catch him at lower because people don't like paying that kind of price tag for Yelich there.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, I mean, on a 15-game slate, this one doesn't have a ton of appeal.
No, not really.
Tigers and Red Sox, and we can talk Tigers here first. They're all GPP plays. None of them are cash game worthy for me. But I don't mind taking one-off shots with them in lineups here and trying to get some exposure to maybe one of those right-handed power bats that might give Wright some trouble. But overall, it's kind of a messy situation.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to be going with the Nick Castellanos of the world, but Ian Kinsler, sure. It is overpriced, but I think that's an interesting place to make your move. So I do like that. Cabrera's okay with me. But yeah, I think it's just tournaments or fade.
Yeah, I think so too. And on the Sox side, I mean, I'm not really in love with the prices. Obviously, Mookie Betts returned the lineup. I like him quite a bit tonight if you're paying up for an outfielder. I think you got to really like looking at the Sox team as far as more so one-off score. I mean, obviously they're in play as a stack, but I just think given the prices, it's a little easier for me to just kind of select maybe a handful or two.
Well, I certainly like David Ortiz at 49. I mean, it is super expensive, but against Mike Palfrey, I'd be willing to make accommodations for Mr. Ortiz tonight. Um, Jackie Bradley at 3K, I kind of like that as well. So I think we can fire away with some of these Red Sox bats. I mean, I could see this getting ugly real early.
Yeah, it very well could. And I like the Bogarts price tag at 3.4. And as you mentioned, Bradley, handling an interesting swerve off of Ortiz for basically a $1,600 difference. That I don't mind there.
Yeah, definitely.
So overall, I mean, as you mentioned on the pitcher pod, you don't really see teams projected for 6.5 runs outside of cores, but the Sox team against Pelfrey is a little bit different.
Right.
So, A's and Rangers, Nick Martinez versus Sonny Gray. And for me, we can start with the A's. I don't mind really any of these bats against Martinez. Great ballpark factors. You just look at Martinez and he struggles against both sides of the plate. You got to feel pretty comfortable using the A's here.
Agreed. Once again, you like the A's versus righties sometimes, at least with Vogt and Reddick. So I think you can fire away with those two as sort of a mini stack and feel pretty comfortable with it.
Yep, I love Vogt. I like Reddick. Chris Davis is certainly intriguing as well. Curious to see when that lineup comes out, what they always do with it. That's one thing that could be something.
They've been pretty wild with what they've been doing with Marcus Semien lately. So that's something to keep an eye on. But yeah, I mean, I do like Reddick and Vogt.
Yeah. And as far as the Rangers goes, I mean, I really don't mind both sides of the plate against Sonny Gray. Odor a little out of my price range. Same thing with Desmond, but I don't mind Profar, Mazzara, Beltre as well.
Yeah, I like all those three, and as you mentioned, Mazzara and Profar, 23 and 2,800 respectively. So that's a nice little start to your lineup there.
Yeah, definitely. Yankees and Astros here. Let's jump into the Yankees real quick. I mean, you look at Fister. Going back to last year, 343 WOBA to lefties, 1.59 home runs per 9. Yankees are not cash for me because they're just a real unreliable offense as far as picking them in good matchups. But I don't mind some of these prices. I don't mind some of the home run upside of really that front four and even a Mark Teixeira.
Yeah, I mean, lefties versus Fister is a solid, interesting way to go. I mean, even if a Teixeira is batting a 7th or something like that, I'd be okay with a tournament shot, sort of going out on a limb there. But yeah, McCann, I mean, I like that. I like Gardner. Ellsbury, I'm having a tough time selling myself on as of late. I just don't necessarily see the upside in what he brings. But I like the Gardner, McCann, and even a Teixeira.
Yep, I definitely do too. And GPP only for me. I mean, are you about the same thing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, other than my cash lineups, which they'll be filled with Yankees. Yes. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, tournament only.
Houston, I mean, going up against CC, I mean, Correa hasn't really been that great against lefties this year. I think you got to like Jose Altuve at 3.9. I mean, I think he's reasonably priced in this matchup. The power's been unreal this year. Him and George Springer are two guys I'm really eyeing a lot here against Sabathia.
Yeah, certainly. I like again. I think you can do that mini stack. I don't think you want to go too crazy with stacking tonight, just because there's so many there's so many bad pitchers. So I think you can go with those two and feel pretty comfortable about the upside there. And even if they don't get a homer or anything, I think there's still plenty of upside to go around. So I do like those two. Other than that, though, I mean, I'm not necessarily buying them as a high upside full stack.
No, as a full stack, I'm not either, just because you kind of have a lot of guys mixed in. If Correa was hitting lefties as well as last year, then I'd be all over it. Obviously, Correa I still think is a GPP option, but obviously just given his record against lefties this year, hasn't been solid. He looks a little bit lost. Evan Gattis at 2.9, definitely intriguing option with his power and potential, so I don't mind Gattis.
Definitely.
Diamondbacks and Brewers here, Matt Garza versus Patrick Corbin. I like the Brewers bats here. I like Ryan Braun. I like Hernan Perez. I like Villar. A little expensive for me, but I think that kind of still makes them playable in tournaments. And even if Villar is cash game playable if for some reason you're paying up at shortstop.
Yeah, sometimes I actually like that more. Just you kind of get on your own island there because they're so priced up. So in that respect, I don't think you're going full exposure to the Brewers. But if you want to make that move to a stack, I think it could be lower owned because of those price tags. So I do like that move.
Yeah, I mean, Corbin, I mean, you go back to last year, 349 WOBA to righties, 1.33 home runs per nine. And while he's pitched better on the road, um, Miller Park is not a good pitcher's park, so I do expect him to struggle a little bit tonight.
For sure.
As far as Matt Garza goes, I mean, he puts the Diamondbacks bats in play. For me, I mean, 372 WOBA to lefties since last year, hasn't been good, 354 WOBA to righties. Jake Lamb should be out tonight, so I think you could see something kind of shake up in the middle of that lineup. But the front five are all certainly in play.
Yeah, I like that Michael Bourne, Gene Segura, Goldschmidt grouping. I think you can fire away with that. If Wellington Castillo's in the lineup, potentially, I mean, who knows where he's going to be at, but if he's batting fourth, I like that top four.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, you might even see Yasmani Tomas slip up into the top half, so him I don't mind either.
Yep. I like that call, brother. I like that call.
Braves Twins next one here, and obviously I think you're looking more so at the Twins side, who are all pretty cheap. Lucas Harrell, I mean, kind of an average right-hander at best. I don't mind the Twins at these prices in GPPs.
I agree. Very reasonable for a team projected for 5.5 runs. You got to like Sano. I think it's obviously because of their splits against right-handed pitching, but I think this is a night where the righties still have some power upside with Nunez, Sano, and Dozier. So probably not a full stack, but I can see making some moves with Dozier and Sano.
Yeah, I could too. I don't even mind a Max Kepler or Kenneth Vargas at 3K. I mean, those are kind of intriguing high upside plays. Obviously not the best ballpark to hit in, but I definitely don't mind it.
Right.
As far as the Braves go, I mean, I'm not looking to target Santana.
Yeah. And they're not even that priced down. If they were like their sometimes Braves where they're like 23, 24, and like 2,700 down the lineup, you're like, all right, I can do this. I can talk. Like I can feel okay about myself at the end of the day, but I can't with these prices here.
No, I can't either. Trout and Royals, Los Angeles Trouts. I think that's what we should just rename
I think
them.
that's a fair proposal we should make.
Because really, I mean, it just seems night in. I mean, obviously Pujols drove in 4 runs last night, but the Los Angeles Trouts and the Kansas City Royals, Dylan G versus Tyler Skaggs. We'll talk about the Angels because they're kind of the easier one to get through. I don't mind Cole Calhoun, Mike Trout, and Pujols here again as kind of swerve options from a lot of these other games.
I agree. I think they're very interesting swerve options. I don't think people are going to be on the Angels just because naturally it doesn't feel good to be on the Angels. I think there's much better, juicier matchups out there. But they are a nice little swerve, especially the core of that lineup. So Dylan G, obviously someone you can go after. Trout, not that David Ortiz 4,900 price, so only 4,100. I can dig that. And Pujols obviously turning it on of late.
Yeah, definitely. And as far as the Royals go, I'm not really looking to use them. Maybe a Salvador Perez at 3,100, but that's about it. I think the Royals are kind of unappealing tonight. I think this game, obviously, we're not searching for a ton of offense here. We can let you know about some low-on plays, but I think Perez, Morales, Cuthbert are probably the only cheap guys kind of maybe worth your look.
Yeah, generally I agree. It's just tough to get behind a Hosmer at 36 against a lefty.
Yeah, and Escobar's not priced down enough.
Right.
I only look at him when really he's a punt price.
Exactly, right.
Rays and Dodgers, Bud Norris versus Chris Archer. And I guess if you wanted to pick on Bud Norris, it would be with the lefties. Just go back to last year, 391 WOBA allowed. With that being said, I don't mind a Brad Miller at 2.9. I mean, that's a really nice price tag for him, or even a Corey Dickerson at 3.5. I don't mind the Rays and GPPs. They're not cashing guys, but there are some guys with some pretty solid power.
Hashtag raising GPPs.
What it always is.
How about hashtag raise lefties and GPPs? That's quite the hashtag. Think we could get that trending?
That's a very long one.
No, I like those calls. Obviously the lefties at top of the order against Norris is usually a good combination. So I do like that. And Archer just makes this a very confusing matchup for me. I don't know. It's going to be all over the place. This could be 10 runs for the Dodgers or like 3 and 10 strikeouts for Archer or something weird. I mean, I could see Seager going for 2 homers or like striking out 3 times, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with Archer. It's such a boom or bust process with him at times. And as you mentioned, I think if you wanted to get picky, for me, it would be the one to do was Justin Turner. But at that price tag, I can't do it. He would be the only one I kind of maybe look at. And as you mentioned, Seager at 3.5, I don't mind him in GPPs. But the prices are just relatively high and around other guys that I like and just much more better matchups. So they really rank below a lot of other guys.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think given if this was a 7 or 8 game slate, you put a little more stock into maybe taking some chances. But 15 games, I think you can just go a wide range elsewhere.
Right, and give me Machado over Turner, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Reds and Giants last game of the night here. You got Matt Cain versus Cody Reed. Reds bats at some nice prices, and Reds continue to hit the ball well. Last night, Jay Bruce with a 2-homer game. Joey Votto on base a couple times. Once again, I don't mind the Reds here. You look at Matt Cain; he's not what he used to be. And the Reds prices 1 through 5 are all really reasonable. So I'm not getting scared off of the ballpark. I think the Reds coming out of the gates here quick in the second half as far as offense goes. I'm gonna jump on this and ride it while I can.
Absolutely. 3 through 5 stacks pretty much there for you every night for the Reds. So I like that. I think you can go with Billy Hamilton. I mean, I know you've been on him a little bit of late. I like those quite a bit. Even Kozar sneaks into the mix a little bit for me tonight. As far and that's Votto and Bruce and Duvall, borderline cash for me. They're that gray area. I'd be okay if you threw them in. Like I don't think that's a bad idea.
Yeah, especially Votto. I mean, that's a nice drop down in price.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of the Giants, though, I'm not really seeing much that truly intrigues me here.
I'm not either. I think just given the fact that obviously you like taking righties against Cody Reed, above average right-handers. The Posey price tag's not really low. 3.9 is expensive for a catcher.
Yeah.
A lot of lefty on lefty matchups in that front of the lineup. Pagan might be the only one I'm okay with at 3.3, but that's pretty much about it. I'm with you. It's not really an appealing FanDuel game as far as the Giants side. I think DraftKings we might take a look more into who we might use.
Right.
So let's get wrap things up here with the FanDuel Punch Out. Be sure to check out DailyFantasyCafe.com for our great tools and content.